Bismillahirrahmanirrahim and Assalamu alaikum. Dear students, today's lesson is about the nervous tissues. Today we will see that what are the neurons and what are their typical structure. So neuron is an electrically excitable cell that processes and transmits information by electrical and chemical signaling. A nerve is made up of many nerve cell fibers, which are called the neurons, bounded together by the connective tissues. And what type of connective tissues are present in the nerve tissues? These are called the epineuron, which are the connective tissues of the nerves, and then are the perineurium, which are the connective tissues of the bundles of the nerve fibers, and then there are the endoneurium, which are the connective tissues of the nerve fibers. And the structure of the neurons include the different types of the components. These are called the cell body or the soma, which has the nucleus, perikaryon or the cytoplasm, and the nucleolema or the plasma membrane. Then the second component of in the typical structure of the neuron is the dendrites. Then the axon and the synapse is an important term related to the nerve tissues. So we will see their details one by one. First of all, there is the cell body of the neuron cell, which is the neuronal cell body is the site where the almost all of the metabolic and the biosynthetic machinery is located, mostly in the central nervous system, 4 to 100 micrometers in diameter. The soma is the central part of the neuron. It contains the nucleus and the organelles of the cell, and therefore it's where most protein synthesis occurs. The nucleus ranges from 3 to 18 micrometers in diameter. And the second component is called the dendrites, a branched protoplasmic extensions of the nerve cells that conducts nerve impulses from adjacent cells inward towards the cell body. A signal nerve may possesses many dendrites. Typically, dendrites are relatively short. And the third component of the neuron is called the axon. An axon is a special cellular extension that arises from the cell body at a site called the axon hillock. Some axons are enveloped by the Schwann cells, which provide structural and the metabolic support. These are classified on the basis of the presence or the absence of the myelin sheath, myelinated connective layers of the Schwann cells, for example, the longer axons, and the non-myelinated, which do not have any kind of concentration of the myelin sheath. And how we can define the myelin, that the myelin is a fatty covering which envelops many axons and permits action potential to be propagated at much greater velocity. Now we will see the more detail of the axon. Many neurons have only one axon, but this axon may and usually will undergo extensive branching, enabling the communication with many target cells. The part of the axon where it emerges from the soma is called the axon hillock. Axon hillock, the most easily excited part of the neurons, and the spike initiation zone of the axon. Now we will discuss an important term which is related to the neuron, that is called the synapse, a site where two neurons joins and intercommunicates. The axon terminal contains synapse specialized structures where the neurotransmitter chemicals are released to communicate with the target neurons. Another important term related to the structure of the neuron is called the nodes of Renwier. What is the nodes of Renwier? Nodes of Renwier are the short fragments of the unmyelinated segments of the axon, which are found periodically in between the cells of the myelin sheath. These nodes are the areas where the action potential is amplified using the high density of the sodium ions and is subsequently passed along the axon. The points between the segments of the myelin are called the rods of Renwier. Here you're watching the full structure or the typical structure of the neuron. Here you're watching in the middle portion, which is called the cell body or the soma, which is having centrally located nucleus and the terminal branches of the cell body, which are called the dendrites. Then we have the axon, and which is the long extension of the neuron, where the Schwann cells and the rods of Ranvier are located, and the exon terminal buttons, which are used to transmit the neurotransmitters from between the two adjacent neurons during the synapse. So this is all about the structure of a typical neuron. Thank you and Allah Hafiz.